there's a turkey walking through the yard heading towards the pond. Well, I was kind of by the pond, and so I just called. And it was late morning. I'd been there all morning. I hadn't even seen or heard a turkey.
Yeah.
His property, it's big open field, so it's one of them spots where they're either there or they're not. The day I went, they weren't there. Well, he's like, hey, there's a turkey. And I'm like, is it a tom or a hen? He goes, I don't know the difference. He doesn't turkey hunt, you know? And I'm like, oh.
Is there a beard on it?
Yeah, I'm like, shoot. So I'm like, well, I'll just call. Well, I called, and sure as heck, man, that bird gobbled towards his house. And I'm like, holy crap. So I called again, and he gobbled again. And I called again, and he gobbled again. I'm like, I better shut up because I've ruined this in the past, you know?
Yeah.
So I shut up, and that bird gobbled the entire way to me. I had a hen decoy out. Like I said, it was a big, wide open field. I had a hen decoy out, and he come in right to that decoy. He never really strutted. He kind of was doing that nervous, like, looking kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
But he come right in. I smoked him, and that was I'll never forget that hunt. Just calling in your first bird where it was like, that was pretty cool. But the reason I switched to mouth calls and why I tried to perfect it so well, I remember being young. And this was at my uncle's where there were 15 gobblers everywhere, you know? I mean, you could go out there and it didn't matter the time of day. There were turkeys gobbling. I'll probably never be able to hunt a spot like that again. I didn't realize at the time what I had. Now I do, obviously. But they're gone. Neighbors killed them. I think bobcats are kind of a problem here with birds.
They are, for sure.
And I think the other big thing is nobody traps anymore.
Nope.
You know, coons eat everything.
Yep.
Fox.
Plus all the bait piles out there keeping all the varmints alive
around.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm calling these birds in, and there were 3 toms, and they were gobbling their heads off. But there was a ditch, and I'm on this side, and they're on this side, and they wouldn't come across. I'm like, all right, I knew enough at the time that it was hard to get them to cross a creek. So I was like, I'm going to go around that creek, and I'm going to get on the same level as them. So I did. I went around, and I had a slate call. I wasn't good with a mouth yet. I had a slate call. And one of the last times I called, these birds hammered. And it was thick. It was like last week of season. These birds hammered, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're like 40 yards. They all 3 just, bah, 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 bah. And I'm like, you know, I'm freaking jacked. I'm like, oh, I'm killing one. So I get all excited. Well, I was sitting like this, and I went to put my damn slate call down, and I went to put my striker on top.
Yeah.
And I dropped it.
Then it clicked.
And it went ting, ting.
Yeah.
Those birds never gobbled again. And that was like I said, like the last weekend. And after that, I was like, I'm learning how to use a mouth call. I will never let this happen again.
Yeah.
Because if I had a mouth call, now it was still my fault, 100%. The call worked. I mean, they were coming right to me.
Yeah.
But I set that call down in the wrong spot, and I wasn't paying attention. I got all excited. These birds are coming, you know. And I set that call down, and it went ting, ting.
Yeah.
And they heard it, and they turned, and they went the other way. And so ever since then, that's what made me like decide, all right, I'm going to learn how to use a mouth call.
Those birds are tricky. I shoot a Mossberg 500 now, and the safety switch on top of the stock.
It's hard to go quiet.
Yeah, I have learned to keep the pressure in a very specific spot and just slowly work it, and then it's almost like a trigger pull. Like I am married to the feeling of that safety, so I know exactly where it's going to fight me and where it's not. And I'm more focused on my safety than the bird at that second.
Because flicking that off, if it goes click, they know. Same thing happened, not to change the topic, I know we're on turkey. Same thing happened this year with Hannah opening day. I had this pretty nice buck. I mean, it would have been her nicest buck. It was pretty big 8. He kind of sat weird. He went way up on his head. But we had this buck pegged, and he's coming in, you know. And here he come, and I expected him to come from in front of us. He come from downwind, and he come from behind us. And he was, I'm not kidding, man, from here to the wall. I mean, he was like 4 yards.
Close.
Yeah, and I'm like, Hannah, do not move.
Yeah.
He's like peeking in the blind, like, I wonder if anybody's in there today, you know? like he knew. Yeah. He's like, I know that's not supposed to be there. Like it had been there for 2 months, but he still knew, you know, he's looking.
Yeah.
Well, he gets out to like 15. And I mean, she could have smoked him right there, but you can't move. He's so close.
Yeah.
But she did that, man, where I'm like, listen, turn your safety off. Use both your fingers. Be as quiet as you can. He's at 15 yards, and he's angling down to get a perfect shot.
Yeah.
Well, she just goes, and he's like,
game over.
Yep. And he just turned and went dead away. And I'm like,
they are home.
Oh, yeah. He's like, I knew something wasn't right.
All right, so turkey stuff. I guess we both mentioned hen decoy. How often are you using a hen decoy?
It depends. If I'm field hunting,
yeah,
often.
Yeah.
If I'm in the woods, I don't use decoys anymore.
Really?
Yep.
Why?
I've had way too many turkeys hang up.
Yeah.
They'll be at 70 yards and they're just like looking and like, all right, you can come to me now.
Mm-hmm.
So I quit using them. But that was also when I would call like crazy. Now I don't call a lot anymore. If I get a bird fired up when he is within 100 yards, I'd say 150. When he's within 150 yards, I don't call anymore.
Yeah.
I don't. Unless it's a done deal and he's at 50 and he's still being dumb and gobbling, I will try to get him to gobble just to work myself up because I think it sounds amazing. But other than that, I don't call much a lot anymore. Once I get him where I'm like, all right, I think he's going to come in, I shut up.
I've kind of started doing the same thing. Now, I always have it with me, and it's mine.
I do as well. I always have it, but I don't use it very often. Mine
folds up pretty good, so if I'm not going to deploy it, I'll sit on it. Because it's a good barrier, so my ass is staying dry. But I've kind of learned the same thing, and this hard lesson learned, and you can watch this on some of our field to food turkey hunts, is that I've definitely done a lot more overcalling the past 3 years than I have in the past 10 before that.
Yeah.
So
you want to hear him gobble. It gets you fired up. You know, your heart starts beating. You're like, oh.
Well,
I've never elk hunted, but to me, it's like a freaking mini elk. Well, you know what I mean?
It's like checking. For me, it's like, are you still there?
Yeah.
Are you still there? Like I don't.
Are you going this way or that way?
Yeah. It's not that I'm getting excited that he's coming in. Yeah. I'm getting nervous that I did something wrong and he started moving off. Right. So I need that text message back from the cute girl saying, "I'm still here, honey. Don't worry." Yep. And it drives me nuts.
Yep. Yeah. Am I friend zoned or am I not?
Right. Yeah. So I didn't film the bird that I shot this last year. But what I hunted the same property, and the reason why I didn't film it because I was so frustrated. If you guys follow us on Instagram or TikTok, you could remember that I lost a tooth because of this turkey season. Which that video will be coming out soon. It's a hard one for me to edit because I can.
Did you get the kill on video?
No.
Okay.
No,
I wasn't 100% sure.
No. That bit. It's hard for me to watch it because I can feel the pain every time I watch it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Okay, but when I did finally connect here in Ohio on a bird last year, what happened was I had a pattern on these birds, and they kept on going to this oak ridge. But they would do it late in the morning. They would find a hen first thing in the morning, hang out with her, and then break away 10:30, and then go over to this oak ridge and make a big loop. So I went to the oak ridge, sat. I didn't even take my call out of a pocket. I left it in there, and once I heard what I thought was them walking the opposite side of the hill, as they were coming up, I took my hat off like I was a hen, and just gave a couple like I was fixing my feathers, and then I would scratch, and that's all it took. And they heard that from I think it had to be 70 or 80 yards across the other lip of the hill, and I was like. If they're that interested in just this little bit of noise, I don't have to say anything else. And they wound up coming in to about 40, which with the 12 gauge now, I'm not worried about a 40-yard shot.
Right.
And there were two toms. There was a boss tom, and then I call them satellite toms. Like it almost seems like the boss tom would send in the satellite for him to go to make sure that there's a hen or the hen wants to breed or something like that. And then the boss tom would come in and he would do...
Kind of like how a mature buck.
Yeah.
I mean, they do the same thing. They send them 2-3-year-old deer and then they're the last ones.
Yeah.
Typically.
Which is how I was just kind of reading everything going through. Yeah. But I wanted to shoot the boss tom because I was so frustrated. I was like, no, I want the head honcho. But I wound up shooting the buddy tom.
Yeah.
Which
to me,
he was still good. It was a bird on the ground.
It does not matter with turkey. I don't care. I'm shooting. If it's got a full beard and a full fan, I'm shooting it. I don't care. Now, what I started to say earlier, so I went 7, 8, 9 years, I don't know, a long time, and I tagged out every year. I killed two birds, and they were always toms. Never shot a Jake, other than the very first turkey I ever shot. 2 years ago, which I think was the first year they said it was a one bird limit.
Yeah.
Unless it was last year.
It was 2 years ago.
I want to say 2 years ago. It was the last. There was 2 weekends left, and I had a hell of a year. I just was. Nothing would go right. You know, I couldn't call a bird in to save my life. They'd always get hung up. You know.
Yeah.
So I went out with my buddy Kyle Thompson. Not you. Your name's Kyle Thompson, right?
Different guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Less handsome. Don't
We
worry.
went to high school. Yeah.
Well, maybe. Does he have tattoos?
No, he has one. So
Okay.
yeah, less tattoos. He doesn't. He doesn't have like trashy hand tattoos or anything. You know.
Preach, brother.
So, anyways, my buddy Kyle, he had killed a bird, and he's like, I got the itch. Can I just tag along? And I'm like, yeah, man, absolutely.
Yeah.
So he come over, and we go across the road from my house as neighbors, and I'm working these birds, and there were 3 or 4 gobbling, and it was like one for sure was a tom, and then there were 2 or 3 that might have been jakes, but I wasn't 100% sure. Well, sure as heck, man. We were in the woods, and I did have a hen decoy out, and these birds fly down. There ended up being 3 of them, and they flew down, and they were like 50 yards away. And I'm like, there's no way they did not see us set that decoy out.
Yeah.
You know? They ended up being jakes.
Okay.
And they come in, and they were gobbling, and they start coming in, and I'm like, man, I can't tell if they're toms or not. And they get to like 30 yards, and I was like, they're definitely all jakes. Kyle's behind me. He's got his phone out, and he's videoing. I'm like, I looked over at him. I said, I'm shooting one. I don't care. Like, it was such a bad year, and there's something about turkey hunting and deer hunting too, but there's something about turkey hunting that having a buddy with you is just the best thing ever.
Yeah,
and I was like, this is so fun. They come in, they were gobbling, they were strutting, and I didn't care at all that it was a jake.
Yeah.
Man, I freaking smoked that thing. So I they're at 10 yards. Well, the closer they are, the harder they are to hit, you know? So I just clicked the safety off, and Kyle hears me. And you hear click, and they didn't really know. I was pretty quiet about it, but he goes, "Don't miss," and I was like, "You bastard!" I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
Now you want to say that now?
I didn't miss, but yeah, 2 years ago, that was the first time. That was the first time I didn't tag. Well, I did tag out because that was when they changed it to one bird, but that was the first time in my like adult hunting of turkey hunting that I shot a jake. But I'll tell you what, I didn't really care at all.
No.
It tasted the same. I feel like
meat-wise, there's a lot less on a jake.
Definitely less.
It's about half.
Yep, definitely less. But like, if that would have been us deer hunting, I wouldn't have shot a button buck.
Yeah.
But a turkey, I don't know why. Maybe that's probably a very controversial issue that guys are like, oh, you need to let them be a year older. I don't know. But dude, it was so fun.
Yeah.
I had a buddy with me. We both got to experience it. Went and cracked a beer at 10 a.m. It was the best thing ever.
Yeah, a turkey kills a good day. Yeah. And you're right, there is some controversy with shooting a jake versus a tom. Yeah. And I do understand because a lot of jakes don't do a lot of breeding, if at all.
Yeah.
And then with the turkey population going down and the predator population going up and less environment from the live-in, like there is something to be said about that and a lot of conversations to be had. But I 100% understand, like, after a long season.
It was, man. It was... Actually, I think I want to say it might have been the last weekend. I forget. I know I was running out of time.
I remember seeing it on Instagram.
It was late.
It was pretty close.
Yeah, it was late, and I was like, I looked at Kyle. I said, I'm shooting one. I don't care. And it was fun.
All right, so we're gonna wrap this up here, but we were talking off camera, so